One essential element you need to have when processing your emotions. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about emotions and one essential element you need to have when you're doing this really difficult emotional work. Now, emotions and chronic pain are very closely linked. So the areas that become activated in your brain when you feel emotional pain are very similar to the areas that become activated when you feel physical pain. There's a lot of overlap here. And there's studies to show that when you resist emotions, when you suppress them and push them down, chronic pain and symptoms start to increase. And I'm of the belief that this is one of the reasons why chronic pain and symptoms are on the rise. They have been for many years. And the reason for this is our society is making us sick. So in our society, we have lots of different ways to avoid emotions. And I have been an expert in this in the past. I promise you all, I've avoided my emotions by staying really busy, being a workaholic. I used to use drugs and alcohol excessively when I was in my teenage years. Another way I avoided it, I've even done some angry cleaning where I go and clean my entire house instead of just attend to the anger that I'm feeling. And so in our society, we have lots of ways that we can just distract ourselves and not be in our body with our emotions. This is super common, like cell phones, TV, electronics. They pull us out of our body. They are a great way for us to have a defense against feeling difficult emotions. And because of this, we're becoming sick. We're having chronic pain and symptoms that are just increasing year by year in our population. And it makes sense why. And so some of the work of Dr. Sarno, Dr. Schubiner, they talk about this excessively in the sense that if we don't experience and approach emotions and emotional experiences, it's going to come out somewhere. And it's going to come out in the form of symptoms in our body. And so Dr. Schubiner, and I read his book when I was recovering, which I'm very grateful for his work, but he talks about in his model, emotional awareness and expression therapy, that we need to actively approach our emotions. So we need to approach them, experience them in the body, express them appropriately to others, and actually allow ourselves to feel them. But our society, as I was saying, actively goes against this process. And I'll give you a really small story from my life. So a couple weeks ago, I was on vacation with my family and we were at the beach. And my daughter, she's 3.5. So she hasn't been to the beach too many times. We live in Alberta. There's not many beaches in Alberta. But what happened is we had to leave the beach. We were there for a number of hours and we were leaving. And of course, she got really upset. She was angry, she was yelling, she was screaming, she was crying. And so she had run up ahead of us. We were kind of walking back to our car. So she was maybe 20 feet ahead of us, crying, throwing her arms up in the air. And I'm, being a therapist and knowing the effects of suppressing emotions have on our nervous system, I'm giving her the space to feel what she needs to feel. In my mind, I'm like, go for it. That's okay. I tried to comfort her as well as this was happening. And this older lady came up to her and basically told her, and there was no ill intent here, she just stated, "Don't cry, it's sunny out." And then she walked away. And I had this response inside of feeling quite angry about it, in the sense that this random stranger thought it was appropriate to tell my daughter to basically not cry, don't feel your emotions. And it's so common in our society. We function like this. And this is what we need to overcome. We need to get to a place where we allow ourselves to feel these messy emotions. Now, on my channel, I talk about the nervous system, especially recently. And regulating your nervous system, that doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. The goal isn't for you to always just be relaxed. Actually, approaching and experiencing emotions helps your nervous system regulate. Otherwise, that emotional energy just stays stuck in your body. And so we need to start allowing ourselves to feel it. But in this video, the essential element you need when you're doing emotional work is you need to have a sense of self-compassion as you're doing it. I know from experience, when I was first starting to feel my emotions, I would feel them, but there would be this layer of criticism that I shouldn't be feeling this way about this situation. My emotions are too big. I'm not processing them right. And all that criticism, it turns all that emotional energy inward on ourselves. Then you're angry and criticizing yourself. That's going to cause your brain and nervous system to feel more in danger and actually escalate chronic pain and symptoms. And so we need to have an element of self-compassion as we're doing this. And I'll give you a great example of how I recently did this with my son. So earlier this week, I picked up my son from camp. And during camp, all the kids went and they got to pick out some library books because the library's in the same building as the camp. So they all got to go and pick out some library books and put them on hold. Now, when I went to greet him, he had this twinkle in his eye. He was all excited and was telling me how we're going to go get the library books when we're leaving. But the problem is I didn't have the library card, so I couldn't get the books. Now, I explained that to him, that we couldn't go and pick up the books today. And of course, he was really upset. He fell to the ground, he was crying, he was sobbing. And what I did is I got down on both knees, I rubbed his back, I spoke in this really calm, loving voice. I explained to him, I know that this is really hard and you were expecting this, and that it didn't work out the way you wanted. And I also reassured him that tomorrow we would get the library books. And what I just did there, I responded to his emotions by allowing him to feel his emotions, but with a sense of self-compassion. I used soothing touch. I used a warm tone of voice. And this is how we need to respond to ourselves when we're doing this emotional work. So whether it's soothing touch, whether it's putting your hands on your chest and feeling the warmth and weight of your hands, or giving yourself a gentle hug, soothing touch can be a really impactful way of sending caring, soothing messages to our nervous system somatically. But it's also talking to yourself in a way, kind of like you would talk to a friend or loved one who is going through the same thing as you. I always think about my kids. If my kids were feeling this, what would I be saying to them? What tone of voice would I have? What posture and nonverbals would I have? And I try to emulate all of that towards myself. Now, inner child work does a really good job in terms of bringing a sense of self-compassion. You visualize yourself at a younger age feeling the way that you're currently feeling. What would they say they needed from you? What would your younger self say they needed from you in that moment when they were feeling those emotions? And then providing it, whether it's physical touch, whether it's soothing words, whether it's just being present for yourself. And so I want people to explore this because having an element of self-compassion is needed to create a sense of safety with our emotions. And by processing emotions in this way, it can actually help our chronic pain and symptoms reduce over time. And it's a radical act. Like I said, I keep talking about our society, but it's a radical act to allow yourself to feel emotions in a society that teaches us to suppress them. So, I hope this video was helpful. I'm currently about to go to a splash park with my kids. I don't know if you can see, but I'm wearing my bathing suit right now. So I'm heading out to do that. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Please put your questions or comments down below, and I'll talk to you next week. Happy healing.